It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips, joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andrew J. Van Beber.
Look who's back, everybody.
I was
Man, good to have you.
It is
good to have you back,
good
pal.
to be back. Yeah, I was, for those that know, was on about a month hiatus due to some Army training that was happening out west. And
out in the Sunshine State.
Yes, and there was plenty of sun the entire time we were there. I would say on average it was about, most days, about 103 degrees outside. And so before we kind of dive into this week's episode, it was kind of funny. We kind of got the rigmarole of the barracks living situation. So when we first get there, we were in these barracks. And they're nice enough, nothing really fancy by any stretch of the means, but they're not bad. Well, then we had to move out the second day we were there because we were told that about a month or two ago, the water pipe had burst and they had fixed it, but they hadn't gotten the test samples back to see if the water was contaminated, and it was going to be a couple of days still. So we moved to another building. Setup was just fine, no complaints. It was closer to the chow hall, and then we were there for maybe a week, and then the air conditioning was already struggling, but then it just completely
you can't go
crapped out. So they moved us again to another location, and we were only probably there for like 2 nights. And then this was a building that had been kind of like, they said they hadn't had anyone staying there for over a year, and you could tell we had to. I mean, it was nice. We had to clean up some pest waste that had clearly been there for a very, very long time.
Oh, man.
Thankfully, Stuart Little didn't try to snuggle with me at night.
Oh, man.
But then, so about like the second or third night we're there, someone flushed the toilet and there was a drain in the bottom, like on the floor in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden just water started shooting out of that.
Oh no, God!
And so, to finish it off, we moved back to the first barracks we were in originally, and of course, the first night, important thing I learned.
Man. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody who was on during your absence. We had Sarah Rutherford, we had Representative Chad Perkins. 2 weeks ago, we watched the debate live, and we had a lot of people who came on and was on for the simulcast. That was entertaining. I thought the most, just
in Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Thank you for soundboard.com.
That's my favorite soundbite that I've heard.
But we'll get more into that. And, I will say this too. We've got Sean and I were kind of talking some spitballing yesterday, and we've got some great ideas coming down the pike. But as promised, I wanted to get Sean's reaction and kind of, I went to the Boston Globe, got some good clips from the debate. Kind of want to I know it's 2 weeks old, but we're not. Since the debate, another assassination attempt on the president's life. I hate to say this, Sean, but I don't think that's going to go away. I think that this is something that Trump is that, what's the word I want to use? He's that divisive that there's enough whack jobs out there that will, I mean, you don't want to see the assassination of any official, but, the only other person in my lifetime that I've seen has had multiple, and I shouldn't say multiple, I think it was only 2 or 3, I can't remember, it was Gerald Ford. And
Interesting. Okay.
And Gerald Ford he wasn't a good president, period, but there was a lot of people angry for him giving the pardon to Nixon and all that other stuff. The chick who tried to assassinate Squeaky Fromm was her name. Yeah. They tried to assassinate Ford. But, this is because Trump is such a polarizing figure, I think that it's going to be interesting to, and hats off to the Secret Service the guy had to have had eagle eyes, because the way they showed that gun was leaning up against the fence, and there was the tip of the barrel that was pointed out of the chain link fence. And
they said he had been out there for like 8 hours or
12 hours.
12 hours.
He was there for 12 hours. And that's a golf course that Trump frequents, if I'm not mistaken. Mar-a-Lago. No, that was Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, that was Mar-a-Lago? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I saw like some people like, how does he even know that Trump is, going to be there? And it's like, but I was like, no, because, it was one of those things where he might not have known, but also if he would have, it's not crazy to think that if you're in that area, it might not be uncommon to realize the president's in town if all of a sudden there's a lot more motorcades around the city going on. There's a lot of different factors that could play into the fact that he might know he was there, and knowing Trump, and especially like if he can look, like you can probably look to see if he's scheduled to speak anywhere across the United States that day. And so if the answer is no, there's a good chance he might be at the golf course. And if he was there for 12 hours, then it goes to show that he was going to patiently wait. And if he wasn't caught then, he might have gone back the next day.
And I just saw a snippet today I was reading somewhere that they're starting to release some of the stuff that they found in this guy's North Carolina home, and he had basically left a note saying, if you find this, then I've completed my job and blah blah blah. I've killed the president and all this stuff. And he was a guy who, and he actually has a very large digital footprint, because he was interviewed for a couple of podcasts. They interviewed him, like people who were at when they were protesting for the Ukraine at the Capitol, and he was, I think they said he was like 58, and he had tried to connect with the Ukraine,
I could have sworn I saw a video of him in the Ukraine.
He was in the Ukraine. He was in.
He apparently had tried to join their military, and they turned him down.
He's like, dude, you're old,
mentally unstable.
You're old and you're crusty, and and they said they didn't have any connections with him. So, I think where there's one, there's 1,000 more of them that are,
Oh yeah.
So. Anyway, so I guess we can dive into this debate. There's some stuff here that we can spend a little bit of time on. There's some stuff that isn't just really earth-shaking, but some of this stuff is. I think the first one that we talk about is the whole racial thing. And again, what the common theme that I thought throughout this whole debate was nobody answered a question. Period. Nobody answered a question. Nobody had.
And, my bad. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, and I caught this while at the airport and on the plane. One of the big things, they both answered the questions their own kind of way. Trump did what Trump does. He is, and I saw so many folks online, people that are typically left-wing leaning individuals, complain about how he was answering the questions. This is not new. This is how Trump has answered questions since he started seriously running for president back in 2015?
Yeah.
So however long ago it was, 16 maybe. But right off the back, the first question he went into talking about immigration, and I think it was a question about the economy.
Yeah,
and he didn't. It wasn't even
years.
like it wasn't even
Right.
a hey, this is why the economy's bad. It was just she and Sleepy Joe have let everyone and their dog in, and then the Haitians are eating the dogs that have come in. And so that was his opening statement about the economy. And so, and then Kamala,
the whole economy
in the same
thing.
breath, just would go around. She played it more like a politician would. There's the issues are not because of us. It's because of the old, the people that have been in, yada yada. It's their fault. And then a runaround answer of just kind of, not answering the question directly. It's, oh well, look at what they did. Look at what they've done. We're doing good. If there's a problem, it's
I didn't like how she was, well, I mean, like you said, what they did, and this is what's going to happen when you take Donald Trump and we're going to have, we're going to have all of this. It's just, it was Democratic playbook at its finest. So let's go ahead and go into the first one here.
You believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking...
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race.
Everything.
I'm sorry. That came out. We have us going on the bottom of the screen. I heard she puts out.
Great time, good time.
Good time. That was, this is, to me, that's reaching to the bottom of the barrel. That's beyond inappropriate. That's like saying, oh, my friend Sean.
And I love the answer, too, of like, I read she wasn't black.
She said she was black.
She said she was black. It's great. I love it.
The fact that her father's from Jamaica and her mother's from India, I mean, why is that? Do you think that's pandering to the lowest common denominator in the Republican Party, just to say, well, she's black and she's a woman and she puts out, so she's a slut? And I mean, is
I
that?
wish, I wish if Trump was going to get on it, I wish he would have just if you're don't tiptoe around the issue. All right, just look how she got here. I was grabbing women by the pussy. She was putting the pussy out to be grabbed. If Trump wanted to really, nosedive in it, he could have. But I'm with you. I mean, it's like, who's that for? Who is that for? And my thing is like, if you watch some of the videos of Kamala at, depending on where she's at, like if she's in the South, she really sticks on that Southern accent.
Oh, she does. Yeah, she does.
There. When she's at the border, it's a little spicy down there when she talks to them. Whenever she's in Atlanta, she got a little.
Oh, she draws it out.
And so it's just like, and some people call it code switching, and I'm like, no. The code switching is a completely different thing altogether. She is actively just going into these areas and going, I'm gonna fit in with these motherfuckers right here.
Right. Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's that kind of shit is ridiculous, and it goes to show how unauthentic, like how you're not an authentic person. Like, you are trying to pander to the people in front of you. Just be yourself, because that's all the American people want is themselves. So
I'm with you on that. I don't like how she does very much pander to the crowd. She does she does a lot of that, and just for defense, he does too. I mean, was, like I said, that was aimed at the lowest common denominator, and it was garbage. So
Trump just does it differently. He'll go to the southern border and say, "I love tacos. I love them.
I love them."
Go to Chinatown.
Wrong.
Wrong.
So, all right, let's go to the next clip here. The next one is interesting as well.
Thing that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? They have abortion in the 9th month.
Okay, we're going to pause that because that was another thing about why Kamala had changed her policy so much. And this Boston Globe, I don't think, showed that, but they asked her, it's like, okay, why have you flip-flopped so much on your policy? And talk about not answering the question. She said, well, when I was raised in a middle-class home, and why have you changed your policy? And, well, that was, and I know you couldn't see the video, but then the whole thing about the whole Marxist, her dad was a Marxist professor, and she just sitting there going, oh yeah, okay. And, I mean, so a lot of the things that he said were really they were really up for fact checking. And I was surprised on how much he put out there as far as, well, I don't know if we'll get to it or not, but like his rallies, we had the greatest rallies, and just so many things that are so subjective that you can't measure it. We had the biggest, the most, and you can't make statements like that. And, stuff like this, calling, he brings up the Marxist stuff just to scare the hell out of everybody, and the people I don't think people really gather and realize how much socialism we already have in place in this country. I mean, that's part of what we already have. I mean, aside from, just really free medicine and everything, we but no, this next one though is this is one we can talk about. This was pretty interesting in what he said here.
They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born, and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban.
It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter, because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you
So this was the one thing. This was the one thing that I agreed with Trump on. And Kamala, and let me just give my thought and then you chime in here. So first of all, the Supreme Court decision did exactly what Trump said it was going to do. It was going to send it back to the states. That's what he wanted, and that's what was going to come out of this. And so it's actually up to the individual states to decide what you want to do. Now, here in Missouri, on the November ballot, there is, I believe it's called Amendment 3. Amendment 3 is going to add to the Missouri Constitution whether or not to allow a woman to have the freedom to choose. Okay? And it's exactly what Trump said it was going to be. We're going to allow the states, if the states want to have it, they can have it. If they don't want to have it, they don't have to have it. And, you know, you and I have differing opinions on abortion. I mean, in case of the health of the mother, rape or incest, okay. But other than that, you know, but at the same time, I respect a woman's right to what she thinks is right for her situation. But I don't agree with it. But at the same time, it's her right, and he was right. The second thing, Kamala has what that statement she made. She has no power. That's not within the system of checks and balances to say, I will pass a national abortion ban. A president can't restore the rights of something that the court has already deemed to be unconstitutional or against the law. And so if she was to try to pass that, and Trump actually made a point in that after, he's like, you don't, and he's right, you don't have the votes in Congress to pass that. There's no way that that'll get through the House. I mean, it's close. It's a 50-50. And in the Senate, it literally is 50-50. And so she wouldn't get that to pass. What's your thoughts on that?
No, you know, Roe v. Wade was, when the Supreme Court overruled it, made things very interesting across the United States. I remember when it first happened, the first thing I heard in Missouri was that all of a sudden birth control was going to be illegal, Plan B was going to be illegal, all these different things that were going to come down the pipe that haven't come down the pipe. Now, what I can say is, when it comes, abortion is one of those ones that I don't think we're ever, at least in my lifetime, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know if we're ever really going to come to a common ground, because there, regardless of how, and you know, I am also on the side of, I think mothers should have rights. I think they should have the right to choose. Women should have the right to choose to do with their bodies. In the cases of rape and incest, or like you said, in the case that a woman's body or her health could be affected by the pregnancy negatively. But then we also have to think of, Louis C.K. has a great bit about abortion that I love, and he's like, you know, it was like, well, what is abortion really? And he's like, you know what, murder of babies a little bit? And he's like, no, it's pretty much all just murdering babies. And so we look at where does the mother's rights and
the child's rights
the
begin.
fetus and the child's rights begin. And again, there are so many different opinions on when that exactly is. Is it the moment of conception? Is it
First heartbeat?
the third week?
Right.
Is it what is it? And that's why I don't know if we'll ever have an answer. I'm a big, fan of states letting people decide on, letting the states decide. Now, I know that's not a perfect answer for everybody, because then, some people are then maybe trapped in a state. They can't get out of a state where, abortion would be considered illegal. And if there's no exceptions, then that's, makes things difficult as well. But I'm with you. Again, this is one of the frustrating things about the debate is, again, I'm glad that they do real-time fact-checking, but it was frustrating because I had to get fact-checked about all of Kamala's misquotes and miscues that she had throughout the debate afterwards, because she wasn't fact-checked by the ABC reporters quite like
and
Trump
that was what. Let me ask you this real quick. What were your thoughts about we saw this with the debate with Joe. What were your thoughts about not having a live audience there?
I enjoy it.
That takes a lot. That takes a lot of wind out of both of their sails, because it depends.
No, and it does for sure. But for me, it's just like with debates, maybe they'd be a little bit different. But God, we can't even have we can't even have the Speaker of the House talk, or we can't have the president address the House of Representatives without Congress people screaming at him.
Being heckled by the crowd, right?
Being heckled. And so it's like, do we really want a presidential debate where, they're being heckled by audience members? No, I'm sure at a debate they could just kick those people out.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same breath, why even put ourselves in that situation? I really enjoy them having the mics muted.
Praise God.
My God.
That was
because it's just, when you say, hey, you're going to be given 2 minutes to respond, you get 2 minutes to respond. There is no interrupting, because part of that too, because I remember the debates when that wasn't a thing, was quite literally like,
it's free fall.
They would get a little bit out, and then the other person would start interrupting them, and they'd be talking over, and then the 2 minutes would be out. They wouldn't pause the timer. They wouldn't reset the timer because they're, busy. I actually just saw a video. I'm not necessarily the biggest Charlie Kirk fan, but I enjoy watching him speak. But I think it was a YouTube channel called Jubilee did a video where Charlie Kirk sits and debates like 25 woke liberal college students in a round robin kind of style. And for the most part, it was good, except for the fact that there were several of these people that were thinking that they had this gotcha moment, but it was not. They didn't have a gotcha. Anything. They just wouldn't shut up. They would not stop talking when he would, or one of the questions, and I know I'm just kind of veering off topic, but again, it goes to how these debates can go. Is Charlie Kirk, his thing was I think college is a scam. Debate me and one of the guys that the most annoying human being I've seen in my life was tell me why church is a scam. And he's like, that's not at all what we're talking about. I don't think that. And no, tell me why church, why isn't church a scam? If you think college, it just that's the kind of crap we would get with these debates when the mics weren't muted. So I'm extremely thankful that they are muted now.
Okay, well, let's see what the next one is here. Oh, I might want to. There we go.
Support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade.
We got past that.
Nowhere and in asking for an abortion.
Sorry about that.
is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you.
So that one was about Obamacare, and that was one of those moments where Trump was totally caught off guard. Okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the, if you think that our healthcare system is in such a mess, what are you planning to do? And he's like, well, I'm not president now, so I don't really have a plan. I have some concepts, I have some ideas. And it was one of those issues where he did not, one of the times that he was really caught with his proverbial pants down because and I'm surprised that his handlers didn't have a better response for that, because I'm sure they let him know, okay, hey, we're going to be talking about this topic, this topic, this topic. And even if you're not going to know what the topic is, you should still be ready to answer. The big issues are also, are going to be about the Affordable Care Act. They're going to be about the border. They're going to be about abortion. I thought that he handled the abortion thing well, and that was about it. When they came to the healthcare thing, he was totally just caught off guard. He was caught off guard, and it was embarrassing for him. And the whole time, Kamal was just sitting there going, okay, we'll run it better. So, and in essence, he's saying, we'll continue to use Obamacare because he didn't have a response for it. And that if you're going to say, well, it's kind of like during the Great Depression. I'm reminded during the Great Depression when it was Wilkie. It was Wilkie that ran against FDR during the Great Depression. And, during a series of questions, when the reporters kind of had him, so are you planning on cutting the WPA, the Works Progress Administration? Well, we like what the WPA is doing, and we would continue to. And what about would you cut back on Social Security for elderly? Well, we like what, and so your question basically becomes then, okay, so then why should we elect you? Why not just stay with the guy who already has it in place and keep him? This is one of those questions. I think that what are you going to do about this is a Democratic plan. This is the Democrats' plan of running healthcare. And if you think about it, don't you think that the healthcare thing has been kind of swept under the rug for the last couple of years?
I 100% do, because I feel like when Obamacare happened, it was such a big deal. And it's been one of those things that, I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard or seen much to do about anything when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't know how President Trump had kind of handled that throughout his presidency. I'm assuming it didn't really change much.
We didn't see hardly anything. Nothing changed about it.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that I know it's messy. I really remember when Obamacare became a thing off the rip.
The way it was handed down, right?
Had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And so it is one of those things where, look, healthcare in the United States is a huge, huge, huge problem with the costs of, anything in general when you go to the doctor is a bit ridiculous. Heck,
yeah.
So get this. So had the folks at Walgreens where we, get TRICARE. That's another thing is your insurance accepted at the place that you need to go when you go to the doctor, which is another ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
But I went in and they just weren't getting it right. My benefits number correct when trying to put my stuff in. And so my daughter, who has epilepsy, she as a medication, and I had to get another medication for my other daughter this week. So when they put the numbers in wrong, the epilepsy medication, which my daughter might go through a bottle and a half, so maybe 2 bottles some months. It really just depends. As she grows, the dosage goes up. Without insurance, that medication costs $40 a bottle, so it'd be $80 a month. Now, my other daughter that we had to get medication for, just a one-time, take it for a couple days kind of thing, without insurance would have cost $97.
God.
And so, and get this, with insurance, like $2. So, healthcare needs to be affordable. It needs to be more accessible. It's why I stayed in the military at the time that I did. I am all for some kind of universal standard for healthcare.
I'm for that.
If the United States, or if we had a program that said, hey, it's going to cost you X amount of money, and it was affordable and it was actually worth it. But I think the big issue that a lot of people have, that I have, is when Obamacare came out, it really felt like the private healthcare sector went under attack. And my opinion on health coverage, look, it sucks. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that it's just how the world works. If you have more money and you want to spend your money on better coverage, on better facilities, I mean, I can't necessarily be the one to tell you, no, everybody should have access to that. Problem is, if everybody has access to it, then results are going to be a lot slower. We're going to have a lot more issues. We see that, and that's a funny thing. Like, yeah, is it great to have free universal health care? Absolutely, it's great because it doesn't cost you anything except for the taxes that come out, and when it's deducted, you don't even really think about it. Problem is, then you get into instances where you might have a broken arm, and then you're stuck in a waiting room for 8 hours.
Right.
Which, to be fair, can happen in the United States anyway, even if you have insurance that you pay for.
Here's the other thing too.
But now
do you think that we saw this? I saw this in the 80s and into the early 90s. My question is, why doesn't the government regulate the healthcare industry like they regulate the stock market, like they regulate? I mean, they put caps on certain things, and I mean, now here we are in 2024, and we're just now starting to see legislation come across that's going to put a cap on insulin. Now we're going to say, instead of just, I'm my friend who we've had on the podcast before, Robin Anderson, who I remember when he was still working at Clopton, and he was the cost of insulin under our school insurance. It was just phenomenal how much he had to pay. It was more than I think it was more than $200 a month for his insulin just to have it, and that's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And I mean,
I mean that's wild.
So, all right.
And that's the thing is it's proof that, like, when they're able to say, like, hey, where we're going to cap the cost, goes to show you that it's not a matter of, oh, this is just an expensive drug to make. Clearly, that's not the issue.
No, it isn't.
Clearly, that's not the issue. And I think to answer your question, V, is I think that Big Pharma is the ones that basically have they have a well that the difference is between, like, let's say a company like Apple, right? They could say, we can kind of charge whatever we want for an iPhone within reason, because if we charge too much, then people aren't going to get the new phone. We have to do it a certain way. With pharmaceuticals, it's like, okay, do you want to die?
Right. They've got you over the barrel.
So I think that's the thing, is they can price gouge. They're the ones that are, if you look at when people run, you take a look at donations, and I can guarantee you
Big
that
Pharma's up there.
Big Pharma is probably the big dick swinger
and all those guys,
in the room.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we got time for one more issue to go after here, and this is the one that's got everybody's goat about the border. So Kamala gets to speak first about the border, which I thought was kind of unique. But here we go.
to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
This is better, though.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes.
We'll come back to that in a second. But so there, you know, and part of they didn't do enough justice because one of the things that she said in her remarks about his rallies and why that was included in the immigration talk is she's like, aren't you tired of the old rhetoric and the fear mongering about how the crime is up because of immigrants, that all, you know, the eating of the cats and the eating of the dogs, and this is, you know, and what's going on and what was going on in Aurora, Colorado, and how that's been kind of overblown by the media and all these extreme. And she's like, aren't you tired of this rhetoric and this fear mongering? And, you know, and then she brings in the thing about his rallies. You know, they're just, people are leaving. We have the greatest rallies. They're the best. But why? Here's my take on that, though. What is Kamala Harris doing about the border? What has Joe done about the border? I mean, we know the situation of what it looks like down there. We've seen the videos. We've seen, I mean, heck, Elon's down. Elon has been down there and has done lives from down there on X, and he's shown people, hey, this is what's actually going on. This is the problem that is existing down here. So, I mean, your thoughts? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things that is actually pretty infuriating. I've got a lot of friends, National Guardsmen that work at the border, and you would not believe the bullshit that they have to go through while they're down there. The amount of things that they see on a daily occurrence at this point is actually insane. I've got friends that work counter drug, even for the state of Missouri, and they have talked about how much of an uptick there has been in illegal drugs, and it is traceable. It's traceable that where it is coming in from, and it is coming in from the border. Mm-hmm. Like it's not even a oh, that's just what. No, it is a legitimate fact. Those numbers, the fentanyl.
Fentanyl
that is being brought into the United States is coming from the southern border. It is not up for debate. It is a failure, a huge failure on Biden and Kamala Harris. Their border policy is bar none the biggest crock of shit that this country, in my opinion, in my short lifetime, has seen since I have been alive. We have joked, we have talked about places like Europe, places in Europe. You look at France, you look at Britain, you look at Ireland right now. Mm-hmm. These immigration problems that these countries are having, and because some of them are just insane, and we are finally now having them here in the United States, and it is only going to get worse before it gets better. Because Biden is Walt Disney himself. That man is
yeah. Oh my God.
Cairo chamber.
He's Cairo chamber ready.
He is done. That man is probably munching on tapioca pudding that Jill is spoon feeding him as we speak.
But here's my question though: why not? Why didn't Trump do that? I mean, you have plenty of statistics. Instead of just saying, and then you had the ABC fact checker say, "Well, why not?" That was my because he missed the boat on that. I agree exactly with what you said. Here in Louisiana right now, and I've said this many times on this show, and I'm not saying this to be dramatic, but I'm saying this to be truthful. I know where to go right now to get fentanyl. I know right now where I can go and get heroin. I mean, right down the street, right down Georgia Street at our local park down there, there's dealers who circle around. There's a cemetery right outside of town on, I'll say it, County Road 255. And Pike County Sheriff's Department have done stings out there, and they've arrested people out there.
Is it Buffalo Cemetery?
It's the one that's kind of like back up on the hill there. It's on a hill. And I imagine, I think it might be Buffalo Cemetery, to tell you the truth.
Is it like off a gravel road?
Yes.
That you can take?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I just showed Tony that cemetery the other day.
And I mean,
I can't take her out there now because they're going to think we're doing crack.
But, we know where the cocaine's coming from. It's always come from Central and South America. But, the uptick in heroin, the uptick in fentanyl is coming from the southern border.
China into the south.
China, and
it's one of those things where, Trump tried to, hit the fear mongering of this is what they're doing in Springfield, and you can make a point about it, but that's not the point you have to make. It's why. Tell me why it makes sense in a town of just over between 40 to 60,000 people. What happens to that town when you drop 20,000 Haitian immigrants into that town overnight?
So that's part of the Republicans were part to blame. I mean, that goes on both sides. Republicans and Democrats both were to blame for that, because that was a Ron DeSantis move. That, okay, we're going to deport these guys, and we're going to dump them on your doorstep. Okay, Iowa, you want to be or Ohio, you want to be a sanctuary state? Boom, here you go. Chicago, you want to be a sanctuary city? Here you go. New York, we've seen the governor or the mayor of New York who's come out and said, back in 2021, oh, we'll take them, and now in 2024, oh, they've got to do something about this, and
yeah. It's what got Lori Lightfoot kicked out of office.
Lori Lightfoot up in
because
Chicago.
People are like,
yeah.
So it's, and I think, no joke, I think it's part of the reason why Cori Bush lost the primary in Missouri.
In St. Louis.
I think because I think people were just like, whoa. When we put in these radical, like, there's people that are left, there's people that are right, but the radical ones, it's the radical ones that are like, we'll fucking do it.
Right.
And it's on both sides. It's the same thing. Like, you got Josh Hawley calling, a war vet a pussy, and then trying to track him down at the state fair, and then keeping his little lips sealed tight when he finally gets called on his bullshit. Mm-hmm. That guy's a clown and a half.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Do you think, one last question before we tidy up for tonight, do you believe in these poll numbers? Are we going to see, in your heart of hearts, do you think that we are going to see a close election, or is this something that's going to blow open wide for one side or the other?
That is a great question. That is a very good question, because here's how I feel about it. It makes so this is just when it was Trump and Biden, and Trump had, I don't know, anywhere from like an 8 to 10 point lead.
Yeah.
if not higher in some areas. Mm-hmm. It is not news that Kamala Harris is not a likable individual. Mm-mm. She was not liked when she attempted to run for president. That might be why if she started OnlyFans, Jesus, we might. I'll be honest. Something. No, but I mean, is the track record is not a proven one. If she's proven anything with her track record, that she is incompetent when it comes to the job. When you work under an individual like President Biden and you look at how his 4 years as president has gone, it is weird to me to see people go, okay, well, since it's not him, but it's someone else, but it's, the person that he's been mentoring and overseeing and, been responsible for the last 4 years. It makes me go, well, how well can you mentor from the senior home? But it's interesting to me that there was this like flip of, at least seemingly flip. Now, I think it's going to go one of two ways. Because here's the thing. Have you ever voted on a poll?
No, never been asked.
I don't know where. Here's the thing. This might sound extremely ignorant. Couldn't tell you where they do polls. Couldn't tell you where you take them. I don't know if it's an online thing. I don't know if you just go to Walmart and there's someone standing out front of it one day. But I tell you this: every person that I have talked to in my lifetime, have you been a part of a political poll? Every single one of them have said no.
It's usually a lot of that of what it's done is it's totally a randomized thing. The way I understand it to work is it happens one of two ways. It comes across and I've seen it come up on my phone before, and it'll say like Barra Research or I'm sorry, Banner Research or Pew Research. I mean, I've seen this stuff come up. Now I have taken a Pew Research poll before, but it had nothing to do with politics. It was about, and I mean, and they make it a point for it to come across your caller ID as this is who they are. Mm-hmm. And I've done. I mean, I've taken part, but I've never been a part of a political survey. So I'm assuming the way that works would be kind of along the same lines. And usually their pool size. It varies. On average, I think it's between 1 and 5,000 people, and it's done on such and that's the thing that people don't realize. It's not a major. People think, they surveyed millions. They're taking a small cross section of, especially in these swing states. They're taking a small cross section, and I mean, it is a true tool by the media to say, this is how we're going to spin this, and this is what we're going to do. So it's not. Yeah. I mean, and that's the same way a lot of these things work. It's like the Nielsen ratings, same thing. It's not like they don't go, this X amount of people. They're saying, no, there's this many television homes, and if we take these 1,000 people based off what they're watching, then it means X amount of people are watching this show. Right.
But no. So when it comes to it, I just genuinely don't know. If we go back to even just when it was Hillary versus Trump, Hillary was winning in the polls. Was throughout and pretty much most of the time leading up to it, it looked like Hillary Clinton was going to win, and then it was the silent majority that came in and swooped. The only reason why I would say there might be some of those that are staying silent, that could boost some of Trump's numbers, but I feel like we've had this shift, right, where like 8 years ago, if you said, hey, I'm voting for Trump, people were afraid to do it because it was you're racist, you're homophobic, you're this. People just didn't want to hear it. So they're like, who are you voting for? I'm just keeping to myself, whatever. Or they might have even said, I'm voting for Hillary, just to avoid the confrontation. Now I think people, over the past 8 years, the last 4 specifically, are like fed up with it. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't have money. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but I don't have XYZ, and the XYZ is also becoming a problem. This is who I'm voting for.
Right.
So I don't think that the silent majority is going to be there for Trump like it was back in 2016. No. But then again, you look at these numbers, and it's 49 to 51, it's 50-50, and
48, and the margin of error is 6% in most of these polls.
Yeah, and so it's so close, and then you go, okay, well, if there is some of that, silent, in this case, it'd be the silent minority, that's, and it's interesting too. I feel like this is a weird year of like, it's one of those ones where I know a lot of union guys that are leaning towards Trump this year.
Yeah, Teamsters have officially. Teamsters are officially.
And I
supporting Trump.
know, even like folks that I know that are pretty hard, that would, on paper be like the most hardcore Republican. They're like, dude, I just got to vote Democrat because I'm union, and that's just kind of how it goes. And so, which I've always found to be ironic, but that's a different thing for another day.
For another day.
You would think that the labor unions, anywho, but no, it's just one of those things where I am actually pretty interested. I'll be honest, I am not the biggest poll believer, because we've seen now that, depending on what news station you're watching, they look different anyway. And then, some might say, oh, it's not as big of a deal. Others are saying, oh, this is clearly, like it's that narrative they push. Like if Fox sees that, in Iowa, Trump was up 51 to 48, 49, whatever, it's like, he's done it. He's dominated. It's a landslide victory, to try to like pool those people that are riding the fence in Iowa. Oh, clearly, if I might as well just go this way. And they do it the same in the other networks. They're like, oh, Pennsylvania's looking pretty blue. You should just come on over and hop in the water while it's here.
I hate that. I hate that. So
yeah.
Anyway, man, it's great to have you back, pal.
And before we jump off, I can't promise that this is something that's going to start next week, but hopefully soon here. I was talking to V for our listeners, and I'd love to see some feedback in the comments, or just shoot one of us a message, or shoot the page a message if you guys would be interested. But we have talked about kind of doing a little bit of a history lesson for our listeners, and one of the things that I've always found interesting is American history. And what I mean by that, not so much as all about the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, this, that, or the other, but learning more about the Constitution, learning more about the Bill of Rights, learning more about even the Declaration of Independence, these documents that were forged at a time when our nation was young, when our nation was upcoming, and how those decisions that were made in the 1700s affect us still to this day. And so, and how they work in modern application. What does the Articles of Confederation, what does the Federalist Papers, what do they mean to us? What is the level of importance to us now? And so, V obviously is the subject matter expert, and I've started to accumulate my material to really kind of get my nose deep into some of them, to have a much better understanding. And so definitely I am looking forward to kind of talking about some of those things, and kind of having a couple different kind of episodes for you, because I know
definitely
I think that'd be a lot of fun. And if you think that would be awful, then let us know. But if you'd be down to learn more about when we say that this is a law, or this is this way because it is, well, we're going to kind of dive deep into why it is that way. So.
Yep.
But no, it's so good to be back. I'm so excited, and I look forward to talking to you all next week.
We'll see you guys. Be a friend, tell a friend, share with us. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Check out our previous shows and clips on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.